prophecies, revelations, economic collapse, martial law, social and civil, aliens, human hybrids, Nephilim, the Great Deception, world chaos, tsunamis. You want to stay tuned for special edition End Time Revelations with Pastor Henry Schaefer and Pastor Steve Hall. And welcome everybody to Project SEER. I'm Pastor Steve Hall, host for the show, and also right here at the controls at the studio is Pastor Henry Schaefer, also the co-owner, co-host,
Hello.
And host, and good to see you, my brother.
All right, glad to be in the studio with you, Brother Steve. We've got a great lineup here today for us. It is January the 18th. It's 2 o'clock. It's right at the top of the hour, just a little bit past the top of the hour. But we're going to give you a full hour. We're not going to cheat you out of anything out of Project SEER, I can tell you that. So let's go ahead. We got somebody.
Full panel. We got somebody back.
We got somebody. We
That's
did not
right.
pay. Did we pay the ransom? I can't remember. I don't think we paid the ransom. There was a note we got.
We sent the special forces in to get
That's
them
what
out.
That's what it was. We have Shotgun Steve with us.
You sure they didn't just send me back? Yes, I'm glad to be back. We're home. We're in the CSRA area, and we're back on WCC 99.9. We've missed everybody, but we have been on we felt like a mission that God sent us on. We ministered in Nebraska, Iowa, been in Missouri, and back down into South Georgia, and now we're back home, and God's put us here permanently in a new home, and God, we thank Him for that. And we're here. We're excited.
Welcome back, brother.
Yeah, I'm home.
And also, we've got Brother Bill George.
Amen. It's good to be with you guys. I don't know where Brother Steve was at, but if you notice he's got white hair, they must have scared him pretty bad.
It's good to have you, Brother Bill, with us as well. God bless you. Thank you for taking out of your time to come in and sit with us as well and being part of Project SEER. And you bring a lot of civility. Is that right? Yeah, a lot of you bring a lot of straightening us all out.
Oh, there
Don't
you
try
go.
to keep our feet on the ground too hard, though. I mean,
Yeah, that
we like to fly sometimes.
Yeah. So listen, while I get everything going over here, we're going to be talking about today about technology and transhumanism. And we're going to give some definitions of what all those are, but we were just kind of going around talking about the technology that is really affecting the world. And so we just kind of say, hey, this is what we see coming. It's going to affect the church. It's going to affect us, the people, your business, your job, transhumanism, technology, and your jobs and what have you. So, Brother Steve, I'm going to let you kick it off. I've got to get us on Facebook here and share it all around.
Well, we want you to hang on for the next hour because we're going to have a great show. And, you know, I watched a video, and I was just telling these guys right here at the round table here that about a year and a half ago I watched a video, and it's hard to believe some things you see on YouTube, but here was a highly educated man standing out in the field with a film crew, and he is pointing to a place across the hill, and he says, right over there is where I used to work, but you don't see anything. He says, all underground facility. And he said, in that facility, there were bodies, just bodies. And he said they had no animation, they had no life as far as talking, moving, any intellectual responses at all. He says, but the bodies were alive. And he says, and we transported them from one place to the other, and they were in different sizes, different shapes, like any children to adult. And so what they were waiting for, and this is what kind of blows your mind, is they were waiting for animation, for somebody's consciousness or some things, let's call that spirit, that demonic realm into view now, some other thing. All it has to do is get the open door and be channeled into that body, and then it can move that body without any problem. Because a demon in a person has a problem because it's free will in that person. The demon doesn't have to do that.
Down that demon road already.
We have, but you know, I'm just throwing it out there. They can do with it. They can fish if they want to. I would just give them a bucket full of worms. Okay, so they are bodies with no willpower. So they're waiting to be animated. So in these last days, we're going to see some things.
Yeah,
We're going to hear some things, and it's not going to seem like it's even logical or plausible until Brother Schaefer will tell his part maybe in a minute when he gets his typing done over there. He told us a very interesting science project, if you want to label it that.
Yeah.
It is modern technology to the highest degree. And he's got a story he's going to share. But I want to share that because I'm telling you, I believe the guy's testimony was true. I don't believe he was a fake. And that he actually worked in that facility, and they have bodies waited to be animated by something. And, you know, there are people now that are frozen. And actors, some of the actors do this. When they die, they want frozen. They hard freeze them, and they're hoping they can take their consciousness out and reanimate it in another being when the technology comes. What do they call that? There's a word for it.
Cryogenics is when they freeze them.
Cryogenics, yes.
Is when they freeze them, and when they're looking at trying to preserve them.
And then or either they want to be able to fix their body and they can come back in their body, or pull their consciousness that's still in their brain that I reckon it's frozen up. Maybe it ain't dead. It's still froze up.
Yeah.
And what they call brain dead would never really happen again, because they would have put your consciousness somewhere and then put it in something else when you wanted them to, or when it was time. I know, that's crazy. Brother Bill, help me out. I mean, I feel like I done jumped out of the boat all by myself.
Well, we're going to talk
laughing
about
at me.
transhumanism. So I pulled up the Wikipedia
That's what I wanted.
definition,
There you
but
go. Let's go
I'm going
with
to just read their thing. Transhumanism, abbreviated by H plus or small h plus, is an international intellectual movement that aims to transform the human condition by developing and making widely available sophisticated technologies to greatly enhance human intellect and physiologists. And I have to say, any transhumanist, I have a brother-in-law who's a wonderful guy. I mean, he's just a nice guy. But most of them won't, he's kind of an exception, but most of them won't listen to what they would consider a common folk opinion of transhumanism. They think that they're so high and sophisticated that they won't listen to common sense. And one of the things we were talking about earlier was, with all the technology that increases, there's like two sides to it. You can see the good sides, like, for instance, the cars and things, driving themselves. It's a good thing to be less accidents, less people getting killed. And a lot of times, from my experience, I can only speak from my experience, transhumanism people that I've talked with or whatever, they'll see that part of it, but they really struggle with seeing the common sense part of it, that says that now you have that, but now you're losing jobs and you're losing this and all these other things. So transhumanists look towards the future. They consider themselves to be higher intellects and more sophisticated than other people.
Okay, let's go back as we begin. Let's go back and just say, okay, where does this movement pick up from, or how has it seeded us? How has it got us prepared to this place, to where we're at? So let's do this here. At the advent of the computer age, the 50s, that time frame when they started the computer chip and started looking at all those things, and to where, let's do air travel. When air travel went to where you would have a co-pilot sitting with you, now it's an automated pilot. You got to realize people freaked out on that. Do you know? I mean, just letting a computer fly an airplane. So that is an actual, intellect flying an airplane, but it's programmed. And then when you look at computers doing work or doing processes, to where you're, just say you're in a plant, and now every step of the way was done by humans, but now everything is totally automated.
Right.
It's an automated process, and it's just say you're baking goods. I mean, you're making biscuits, you're making whatever you're making coming out, but it could be from drugs all the way to making biscuits. But it's all automated, all the way from the beginning all the way to the end. Or even doing the process of doing automobiles, there is a process to where it's human interaction, and then there is the computer interaction. You got to realize that we're being planned and programmed into this. So let's talk about our a thing that I see as far as we were growing up, this generation growing up, the $6 Million Man.
Oh yeah, Steve Austin, a man very alive. We can rebuild him.
Yeah,
we have the technology.
Exactly. So tell the people. So there's people who don't know. Tell them about that, Steve. What that was.
He was my hero. Yeah. Come home from school, you turn the radio on, you want to see the $6 Million Man. He was thinking astronaut. He had an accident, and he lost a limb and an eye.
Yes, I
and some
forgot
other
about
parts.
all that. Yeah.
And then they put him back together. you know, and
We can
then
make him better
and
than
then
he was.
faster than he was, stronger than he was, and he could run like 60 miles. There you go. He could lift up these tremendous weights. He could see with his telescopic eye. He looked just as normal as anybody, but supposedly he had all these robotics now helping and making him superhuman. But that was Steve Austin, the man buried alive.
And when you look at that, we were being programmed as kids to start to accepting some. Oh, wouldn't that be great, man, if he could do some things like that? And you know, even some of the science fiction movies and all, they were melding together animals and humans coming together to give them different eyesight and strength and all these.
A lot of superheroes have an animal component to them, or at least a species component to them. They've got scales, or they've got, like you said, something that is from another kingdom added to their ability.
Why do you think that is? Because even like ball teams and stuff will take on, you know, the Jaguars, or they'll take on an animal. Why do you think they do that?
Well, you got to think, their spirits. You go all the way back to the native times, and even in America, before the Europeans ever came, they were wanting their spirit guide, their spirit protected. They would go out in the woods and smoke marijuana or whatever they had, Yodi or whatever you want to call it, and until they met their spirit guide, and then they would have the guide. It was a spirit. So the same thing, they're connecting with the spirit. It's there. I mean, why else would you?
Because I'd much rather be a human than an animal, because a human can use tools, and no matter how fast you are, if you're a Jaguar, a human can grab a tool and potentially protect himself.
Exactly.
You know, so I'd rather be a human. But all over the country, or the world, actually, you see all these people, like you're saying, taking their spirit, animal spirit, and Disney is all about that.
It is, yeah. Disney is all about big into spirits. When you watch any of their cartoons, you're gonna see them.
Yeah. Does that go back to when, like in the early 20s and 30s and 40s, when the military was working with people's minds? Does that actually go back to that period?
It supersedes all of that. You got to go all the way back to the Old Testament. You got to go way back to I don't know what was here, you know, during how far the Indian tribes actually were here in North America. But when you go far enough back, you're going to find spirits interacting with humans. They always wanted to have a place in our life, and they still want a place in our life today.
Yeah.
And so, you know, us that have dealt with this phenomenon, if that's what you want to call it, which is not, it's been around since the beginning of time. So I'm thinking about these things, even when we're talking about them now. It's the same spirits, just repackaged and sold again to a more sophisticated audience.
Yeah.
Well, even Satan himself went into the form of a serpent to deal with Eve. You would have thought, you know, he could have made himself to look more like a man or a woman, or you know, more like a woman that would, you know, she would see her and think, oh well.
Yeah, but see that here we go getting back to the root of this thing. We're going to turn Brother Schaefer loose now. Is the spirit of Lucifer entered a serpent? So Lucifer was talking through a serpent. He had ushered up and over the serpent's consciousness and was taking over and using that serpent as a body to work through. And it's the same thing that happens in the spirit world today when you yield to a spirit. Now, a spirit can come in you, and your willpower is greater than the spirit. So the spirit's telling you to hurt that person, shoot that person, but you say, I'm not going to do that. So that's the power of your willpower.
And you see how you could take the Bible and you take a movie. Because when you said that, I thought, well, that's right. The Bible does say that he went into this serpent. But the movie that I had seen, he formed himself into a snake, and then went.
Well, it also says that the serpent was the most subtle. And I've always been a little curious about that, because, you know, the curse on the snake was that it always crawled to its dinner.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always wondered, you know, was the snake upright at one time? Was it on its own feet?
Well, you know, there's probably endless debates about the position of the serpent before he became, you know, cast down to the ground. But I believe that it was the yielding of himself that caused it, that he was subtle. Maybe he wanted the power. Maybe he wanted the same intrigue that's in us, you know, to want power and influence came into the serpent, and the devil lied to him and said, let me work through you. Let me use you, and then you'll be powerful. And then we can do great things like deceive this woman and take over her kingdom. And I believe there was a partnership that was agreed upon, and that's why Satan and the serpent is different. You know, he's not, that's the idea that we associate, but he is not that creature.
That's right.
He's a fallen angel.
Well, I was reading just the other day, because I read all the time. I was reading about this gentleman who was indicted for a crime, and he pled not guilty, and asked him why. They said, well, we got videotape of you committing the crime. He said, yes, you got videotape, but he said, I don't know why I did that. He said, I've never been in trouble in my whole life. He said, something suddenly clicked in my brain.
Yeah.
And he said, I was told to go do this, and I did it. And so they were wondering if he had a mental condition. He says, no. When I was in the military, he said, I went through some testing that I volunteered for. He said, I'm wondering if something was done to me, because he said, I never would have ever thought about doing what I did unless something compelled me to do it.
Sure.
And so I'm wondering if people who have volunteered for testing and projects and things have maybe opened up their minds to this artificial.
Well, isn't that what they call it, the Manchurian candidate?
Yes.
They've got movies and all about that, and there's parts of that is true. This mind control thing is a big issue, and especially in the occult, and especially in the Illuminati.
Yeah.
That they train their families. They don't just grow them up rich. They train them. They indoctrinate them. They send them to special school to be a psychic, to have certain powers in a demonic realm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Sirhan, who shot Bobby Kennedy, he's never admitted to what he was seen to do.
Because it was his consciousness that probably wasn't in control at the time. Yeah. So, Brother Schaefer, now we've prepped this thing up for you to tell us the story about what you saw on the high-tech, what would we call this, the Spock mind transfer? Well, you remember Spock?
Yeah,
he used to put the thing. He put and he'd take
mind meld.
Yeah, mind meld. Yeah, tell us about what the real science is doing today, brother. You was just telling us.
I mean, it was amazing. Well,
that's where the idea probably came from, right there. So much came off of Star Trek that's true today.
Yep.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. Let's see what's coming here. So here, when we look at technology and transhumanism. I put the definition up on the screen a while ago, and you said it right, Brother Bill. It's the belief or theory that human race can evolve beyond its current physical and mental, and that's what I want to focus on just while we're saying this, the mental limitations, especially by means of science and technology. So they believe that we can evolve, get better at what we're doing. Okay? So,
which is not a bad thing.
No, it's not a thing. So they're prepping us now for this mental evolving, getting better at what we're doing. So of course, they're doing a lot of things with the rats and doing a lot of the things with the little animals and stuff like this here. So let's talk about memory. So one of the things I just came across that was sent to me was that West Coast had a rat that they were learning how to feed it, through the maze. Put the food at one end, and it, through trial and error, takes time for it to find how to get through that maze, and eventually it memorizes that maze. Once it memorized the maze, they had another rat with the same maze in, say, New York. And through that, they were able to connect the brain of the rat immediately through the internet. Now, that was it. Through the internet, made a connection to the brain through the little plug-in modules into the brain itself. And the rat in New York City, immediately when they plugged it in and put it in the maze, first shot went right through the maze and went to the food. It had the same memory of it as the rat that was in California. Now, what that really means, once you say, okay, they can do this, or we can do this, is that let's open this up now to how can this go into our society now. So let's do this here, is that everything that a person knows, can't just say it like this rat, can be sucked down into an electronic format, and then collectively you can access.
So that would be his conscious knowledge.
Conscious knowledge.
Digitized. Can be formatted and given.
Formatted.
Is this crazy?
Isn't there something here?
But that is right off of another movie called The Matrix.
I like that.
They put that guy in a chair.
That's right.
And they plugged him in, and they taught him kung fu. They taught him everything he needed to know. Man, and all it was a program, brother.
Yeah, program.
So a lot of stuff Hollywood's getting right.
So we're talking about transhumanism and how that's going to affect us. Now we talked about from driving a car. So let's do this here, where we let I don't know, let's stay with the airplane thing. Now to where you had a pilot and a co-pilot, the only two on the airplane that knew how to fly it. Now everybody on the airplane knows how to fly it. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows. You see what I'm getting at?
Download it. Put your phone, put your headphone, put your smartphone against your head. All right, 5 minutes, it'll be downloaded.
So now and then as far as like if you wanted to become just say a lawyer or a doctor or any of those type things, where you would gain access to this knowledge, to where it comes right down. You come to the same level as it. Einstein, all these different. Now let's just go from the knowledge aspect of it, but to experiencing that. It's like when we went 2 years ago, we went to the river there in Gatlinburg. I think it's at 407, whatever it is, the exit we got off, and then we went and got in a boat, in a rubber raft, and went up the river and had our shorts and all on, and we got into water.
Whitewater rafting.
Whitewater rafting. And so now the thing is,
Nantahala River.
So look at this here. So the young kids were supposed to be up front, and Grandma and Grandpa, me and Fran, supposed to be in the back. That's the safest place. But the little kids, they said, no, we can't do this here. So they moved me and Fran to the front of the boat. So we were the one, you know how it is on the front. So here we are, and I'm talking about experiencing a whitewater raft. Here we go, and it was fun. But it was fun. So the thing is that what I experienced would not be from the back of the boat. But when you plugged into my consciousness, it would be as if you were there and experiencing that memory with me, as if you were in the boat in the front with me and Sister Schaefer and seeing everything from our viewpoint of it. And the memory would not be sketchy or anything. As I remember the highlights of it, and then over time it dims out. But it would be sharp, crystal clear, sounds, audio, video, all the conversations, everything going on around us. You would experience it as if you were there as well. And can you imagine this, going to the moon?
With the astronauts?
If we really went. If we really went.
Trump says we're going back.
Yeah, or whatever, So what I'm trying to say is that, so here is the transhumanism. You got to think about that conscious level of doing that we experience. You grew up, we're not only that. Now, so let's do this here. You download all this good stuff in. Now, watch this here. Here's the bad part of it is now somebody hijacks your memory.
Steals your intelligence.
And steals your intelligence.
And now they're the wicked scientists.
Exactly.
The good one.
Yeah, so now all the horror and all the terrible things is that it is terrorism, a psychological terrorism across the web and across the internet. Just anything that you say is good, then you always have to look at what's going to be the bad side of it. And scientists today, as we're talking about this, they are contemplating, not contemplating, they are looking at how do you put safeties in place so that, because if the government's doing it.
Never trust the government, rule number one.
And the second rule is?
Always remember rule number one.
Exactly.
Well, what if somebody kidnapped a scientist and then got his mind and was able to transfer it to somebody else? Look at the conflict that would have with national security and things of that nature.
See,
Exactly.
everything that you can think of, once you start going, this is
Once
awesome.
you go down a rabbit hole, it changes.
Exactly. What the bad one? Once you go down real deep and it gets dark, and then that's where you have to. That there are people today. Do you remember the movie? Anybody remember the movie Soylent Green?
Yes.
You remember? You old enough to remember Charlton Heston?
Charlton Heston.
Soylent Green was in the future when the food was limited, and the food was limited, and they didn't have. I mean, the world was starving. So you had these old people, kind of like I am now, and what they wanted to do is get rid of the old people. So because the old people consume food and we don't produce anything.
Yeah.
So they think, but nowadays they come to us to go to work because they ain't get nobody else to do it.
Right.
But anyway, beyond that is that what they did in Soylent Green is once they got ready to die and they said, okay, they had a disease that something was coming, said, well, hey, we can go ahead and take you on out so you don't have to live another 20 years, but you can go to you could go down and pick out how do you want to go out of here? You want to go going down Hawaii, sunset. Do you remember that?
Yes.
The sunset you could pick at, and you're going out, and it's just all the memories and all. So you were living it. In your mind, you were living it. It's just like you were there, and then they would go ahead and put you on to sleep and just take you on out of the world. See what I mean? And you just paid for whichever way you wanted to go out. Going on your experience, your excursion, going out, and just put you on to sleep. And then the other end of that movie is that once you were done with, all of a sudden you go on down a little tunnel. Next thing you know, you come out on a little bottle called Soylent Green.
Oh,
you were food.
You were food.
Yes, you were food for the next person. Going on there, I'm going, oh man, what a movie! What a movie!
You ain't buying none of that stuff.
But
No.
if you're not a Christian, that would be appeasing to you to think that you could end your days the way that you want to end it.
But here's the thing that I see: the underneath part of this whole thing is very ugly, because once you give up your consciousness to let some more consciousness come in, you're no longer funneling or controlling any of it. God gave you consciousness so that you could ward off things that you didn't want in your mind. You'd see something and I'm not watching that. I don't want that in my eyes, eye gate.
I think also, Steve, is the thing that we have to look at as being warning, a voice of warning to the end times. Let's stay with the rat.
All right.
How the rat knew, and how the rat at the other end knew. Is it really a transference of memory? Is it really a transference of memory, or is it a spiritual transfer of a spirit?
Exactly
that
what
was
I mean.
that was in that rat.
Yeah.
That now and let's just say through the wires. I want to tell a story about the wires. Okay, so that is through the wires. Something was transmitted. There's no doubt.
Exactly.
Transmitted, and then now this rat on the other end, it knows exactly how to route through the thing. So we say it's an actual plug-in and it's a memory. So just say it is that, but what if it's not? But it was an actual transfer of a spirit, a demon,
right?
That moved from.
And let's call it a familiar spirit, familiar with the rat who found the way, right through the wire. Now it's familiar to that rat.
Right.
Well, Kurzel, he believes that it's a how did he put it? A legacy of the Enlightenment, which is a spirit, and he believes that and he's a big transhumanism believer, and he's into that technology. He actually believes it's that spirit of enlightenment that is being carried forward. In other words, it's almost like living eternally.
Well, it would be a demon living eternally.
Yes.
And it will live eternally. From the time it was eternally created, from the time it was created, it's an eternal being like we are. But that spirit, that demon, is going to go. He never dies.
Yeah.
Nor an angel as well. But they do have a created, but they're not eternally, creation. They were created at one time, but it will live for eternity.
But when you're in the deliverance ministry, you see that things when they manifest, that they have the same mannerisms and things that like almost like a learned I want to say habit, but
behavior,
learned behavior. That's what I'm looking for. And you'll see that maybe in 3 or 4 different people and those people don't know anything about the other people, but yet they act the same way when it comes up. It acts the same way.
A spirit.
A familiar spirit.
Yeah.
And I'd say familiar because they're familiar with one another,
And their assignment is the same. You bring anger in. That's your job. I believe that now. I'll go out on a limb with you on this one. So go ahead.
Yeah, because, there's been a couple that's had slothfulness spirit, and they both manifested the same way, but they didn't know each other. The two people didn't know each other, didn't see each other, and had nothing to do with each other.
Jezebel's the same way.
Yeah.
I've cast Jezebel out in Peru, cast her out over here, in America. Exact same characteristic. I'm just telling you, when it shows up, I said, I know who you are.
Yep, exactly. And
in Peru, I knew who.
And
they
you know
didn't
those
speak the
people don't
language.
know each other.
Yeah, they don't know each other.
They can't get together and practice on it. So how's that happening?
I think bringing it to the transhumanism aspect of it is when we look at the mixing of this technology with humans are being programmed and set up to receive the supernatural power that's going to come through the supernatural memory, supernatural strength, supernatural eyes. when we talk about changing the eyes or whatever the technology is going to do, it opens that up to be able to receive that supernatural whatever that's going to come with it. In reality, what's coming with it, it's not just a mechanical type increasing of H plus, humanism plus, getting better like the $6 million man, but the strength of the $6 million man is not in his muscles or the whatever they put in there to replace the bad part, but a spirit, a demon that now has the supernatural strength to be able to exercise itself when it wants to make you think that. See, I think here's what I'm saying.
It's a great deception.
It's a great deception, and here's the thing: is that I honestly believe that there are people who are teaching this transhumanism. I'm talking about they know. They know the aspect of it, and they know that demons can indwell those objects and things.
Come on now.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're teaching that.
How about, can I,
Go
I'm going
ahead.
to throw something else in the rabbit hole with you. Medication.
Yeah.
Medication. It's pharmacia. It's witchcraft. It's sorcery. And they made the potions years ago. They make the potions today, and they gave it to people to cure ailments or diseases, but they were demonically empowered. So many of the things they're getting today will tell you flat out, they say it may cause the thoughts of suicide. Now, how's that pill going to cause me to think a certain way? Is it going to get in my brain and control it? If it's a demon, that's what it's going to try to do.
Yeah.
So when they're building those pills, they know why they've made the pills, and they know that this pill should work in you this way, and you this way, and you this way. And for the most part, it may. Why? Because the demons know that's why they built that pill. And so they're going to inhabit. And I know I'm going to, y'all saw the limb off, I'll fall. But they know that that's what its job's supposed to be. So it's going to mimic that, so you'll keep using it, and then it'll be in you because you willfully take it. You let down your consciousness, your spiritual whatever, and you let the wall down, and you let this thing in, and now you have this thing abiding in you. Let's say nicotine. Let's say, what's the powerful painkiller? DC is eat up with opioids.
Yeah.
DC is eat up with opioids.
Opiates.
Okay. Yeah, opiates. And it's ate up with it right now. What is that? Demons? Where they at? They're in the pill.
Well, you know, when they've dealt with some people, it's like empathy. If you can take empathy away from somebody, then they're less human. If you give them more empathy, then they're more human. So if you can control that amount of empathy that one has or doesn't have, then they don't become fully human. And then it's the same way as if you gave them an ear implant, like a cyborg implant in their ear, that created super hearing, which is not natural for us to be able to hear 2 miles down the road. And I'm just using that as an example. Then you've made them part machine and part human. So that there, it's also, you're looking at, if you take this human being and he says, okay, I'm going to volunteer to be half machine and half human, they're going to put limitations on even his technology. And it may not be what he wants when he takes on this new.
So somebody else will be controlling him.
Right.
Someone would be controlling
And there
him.
you get to the issue of control all over it. Somebody else other than you've allowed to come in, and now they are in control.
So let's go back before the combination of humans and machines into a body. Let's go back to where we began at with the automobile, with the planes. The plane, we don't have a problem with the plane autopilots, or we have doctors now who are operating through robots.
Yeah,
they're doing it through robots, or driving trains. All done by computerization. All kind of things that we say that we've never done before. Now they're letting robots do those things. And so we're talking about transhumanism. Let's just go back and just say, not with transhumanism, just with machines. Talking about just saying machines. That machines are becoming so intelligent just themselves. See, that's where they're able to take that intelligent device and put it into a human to combine the two together. So the machine has to be smarter, better than the human, or it wouldn't be connecting it with it.
Yeah.
So in that machine itself, or that computerized program, is that I honestly believe, this is just me now, out on the limit, that once the computers start to become aware of itself. The supercomputers become aware of itself, and then they start talking to other computers, and they start see what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're doing it on a component level, computer level, in doing that.
Yeah.
And then now you're going to take that piece of it and go put it in a person. See what I'm getting at? But what I'm trying to say is that someone will say that all this is done through technology and it's just computer talking. I believe it gets to a point, to a level, it's demonic.
Exactly.
It's that these things are now, a spirit enters into this machine.
I agree.
And it starts now to operate and talk and to do, and the other computers and the scientists who are monitoring these things, here's what they go, oh, it's self-aware. It's talking to each other. Who's writing that code? Who is doing that? Well, it's not the computer, I can tell you that.
Exactly.
You say it's the computer, and I'm going, that's where the great deception comes in.
Yes.
To the scientist who thinks it, and even maybe to the Christian who's doing it that doesn't believe in demonic activity into the computer age, into those things. Did that make sense what I just said?
I think it makes perfect sense with what I just said as well.
Amen.
The demonic spirits are moving through the wire. They're going to get in somebody to do what the scientist is looking and hoping to happen, but they don't even realize what's in there. They think it's one thing, but in reality it's a spirit control. And the drug is the same thing.
Yeah.
They think this
It's the
drug is
doorway.
causing me to feel drowsy, but it is a demon of sleep.
Yeah.
Amen.
It's a demon of slumber.
And it's
That's come in because you took a pill.
It's not necessarily even that a person is sitting and saying, I'm going to make a program that's demonic and I'm going to kill the world and I'm going to destroy the world. Just think about Christian people that you know, that's everything they think is of God. You know, and God told me this, God did this, God did that. I remember telling my son, you know, he wanted to change his major at college. I said, well, son, what I would do is I would pray about it and seek God's face and to make a decision. Next day he says, Dad, I changed my classes to major in music, blah, 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 blah. And I said, wow, I've been a minister for all these years. I haven't heard from God that fast. But there are some people that everything that they hear, they think
It's
because
from
they're a
God.
Christian, it's of God.
Right.
So having said that, people that are doing things, you know, say it's a computer program that's a Christian, he may think that he's hearing from God and doing all these things in his program, that he's doing God's work, but it may
Something's
not be
got
God.
it.
It could be something else,
That's
because we
right.
know that Christians have demons. So if Christians have demons, it could be those
Well,
demons
let's just say
telling
that
them to
person
do
who
it.
doesn't believe that Christians can be influenced by one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I'm writing a major health program for computers, and I'm being influenced, I think, oh, God is just really pouring all this stuff into me, and I'm doing things that I wouldn't normally do, but I'm thinking, oh, this is enlightenment from God. I was listening to your show the other day, Pastor, about the blessing cards, I think it was, or spirit cards or something, and how these
Destiny cards.
Destiny, and these people using, in my opinion, tarot cards to figure out what God wants for them. That's what my opinion was. But in their mind, they're doing something really good of God, you know. So people think that way.
Yes, they do.
And they hear us, talking on the radio, and they say, that's a bunch of crazy fanatics thinking that, you know, everybody's trying to destroy the world. That's not the case. You could be a perfectly humble Christian person that's being influenced, that as you're programming, or you're creating intelligence, or you're creating a prosthesis for a person that has an amputee that's going to work like a robotic leg or something.
Artificial hearts.
You could be doing,
All of it.
meaning to do wonderful things, but these spirits can change it. Goes back to the pastor put out a word preaching the message, and as he said, the words can change before they come to your ears, and you
I
can hear
believe
something
that.
else.
Yeah.
So I mean, anybody that's listening today, I just want them to understand, we're not saying that necessarily everybody's trying to destroy the world. Just some people have been
Right.
influenced to destroy the world.
Some people have yielded to the influence.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
welcomed the influence and celebrated the influence because they want power, prestige, and money, all those things, and they're willing to do whatever. And that's when you let down your consciousness to let help come in from the outside. And, you know, I've heard people say, we don't care if it's God or a demon. We need somebody to fix the problem.
Yeah. So
And
let's
then-
go ahead. I got one that's going to fix the problem.
Is it a pool problem?
It's a pool problem, right? You ready for this? Here we go.
Come on, Brother Lee.
More Pool Services, and you're listening to 99.9 WUCC FM. Contact me for all your pool needs at 803-707-2258. Thank you, and God bless.
All right, thank you, brother.
So is
Pool.
everything of the devil? No. God created the whole world and everything that's in it.
Right.
Nothing's here that he did not make.
Talk
but
about technology.
There's very little here that man and demonic spirits have not tried to tamper with and mess it up.
Well, when we go back now, and we go all the way back to the fall of man, back in the time of Genesis, when the fallen angels came down and gave and perverted technology to man.
Yeah.
So still, those fallen angels are still here, still alive,
Still
and they're
perverting.
still perverting the technology that man has the influence of that. And I think the great deception, Steve, is for us is to let people know is that, yes, these things can happen. And just like an automobile can drive itself, and we listen here, and we get into say, hey, it drives itself, and I'm letting you know, because of that, something else can drive that car too, and it's a spirit being can drive it.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean?
And
It's
it can get in. Let's just say this: it can get in probably in electronics easier than it can me, because I have self-will. That electronics does not have a brain. That computer cannot think, even though you can do something and
Makes it
something
think
else
it is,
comes
right.
out. Makes you think it's thinking, but something else can come in there and move that thing around.
Exactly.
Just like it does the Ouija board. You know, they put their hand. I don't know now. I don't play this right, but you know, they put their hands on it and they give it permission to move.
I've done that.
And have you?
Yeah,
Did
put
it
your
move?
hands on there just like that,
And you
and just
give it
and
permission?
ask it questions and
Use
all
it,
of that
yeah.
little planchette and everything. Tried to get it to move, and I moved it myself, but it never
What-
really moved for me.
what do you
But
think-
that's what we did when we was a kids.
What do you think your great-great-grandparents thought when the first television came around?
It's
Demons.
impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to
Who
be.
shrunk
It's
them
got to
people?
be the devil. And you know what? It was.
I can agree with that.
The one-eyed demon. Yeah, you know,
You got the devil's tail outside over your house.
and you had to hold it a certain way to get the reception. But you think about the technology then. What was that, 1938?
I say I have no problem with technology,
Right.
learning technology. I think that technology is a great thing. Here's the thing: is that anything can be perverted, and that's what the enemy does. The thing is us making you aware of that perversion. Now, let me tell you now. You talking about how it travels down the wire. Let's go from the rat from California all the way. Okay, so here's the story.
Welcome to the Twilight Zone.
There we go. So here, this is the testimony. So a just say they were in New York, up north. The lady was dying, and when she died, there were some people in the room with her, at the hospital. Well, in Florida, now this is a true story. It told me in Florida, and I'm gonna call the lady up there Aunt Susie. She passed away in Florida. There was a part of the family, and that was not able to go to New York, wherever the death was taken at. And then all of a sudden, when the woman there died, there in New York, just a little bit of time passed, and all of a sudden, here's what happens is they finally call the people down in Florida and said, hey, Aunt Susie died. And the young lady says, what do you mean Aunt Susie died? Said, yeah, Aunt Susie died. I'm just here to let you know. She said, that's impossible. Said, why? She said, I just talked to Aunt Susie on the phone just a few moments ago. The phone rang, and it was Aunt Susie on that. So, well, what did Aunt Susie say? Well, it was her voice, and then I kept saying, hello, hello, Aunt Susie, hello. Then all of a sudden the line went down, disconnected. What was happening, now we know, before everybody would have said Twilight Zone, weird. But what we know happens is that the spirits owns the bloodline.
Yeah.
And whatever spirit was in Aunt Susie is looking for a place to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if it can make a connection to whoever and get from that person over to another person, I'm talking about, over the phone, and then that spirit travels
Yep.
the connection,
Yeah.
and they feel something enter them. You know what I mean? Or they don't even realize it, but something happened. The spirit of Aunt Susie, is transmitted, but it's not the Aunt Susie. Who is it, Steve?
It's a familiar spirit wanting to stay in the family.
Stay in the bloodline.
And if you don't believe it, you need to go to Peru with me. I'll be going back maybe this July, August, and need to go with me, because one of the first things you have to do is learn to break the family curse. You have to break the ancestral spirits. You have
Yeah.
to disassociate from them. You have to renounce them, and you have to tell them to leave.
Yeah.
And once you take that right away from them, then you can cast the demons off that are familiar spirits to your family, because there's all kind of trash over there, but it's here too now.
Yeah.
But
It's
over
just
there,
hidden.
It's hidden here better.
Doctors ask for it. They want to know your family history, medical.
Yeah.
You have this kind of problem, suicide, die of this, cancer, this. They want to know about extended family and all these different things, because they know in a medical term that
Hereditary.
hereditary.
what they would say.
And they don't even ask whether you're a Christian or not.
Right.
You see, that's the coolest part. They don't care whether you're a Christian or not. They know it owns the bloodlines. What happens is that all of a sudden, I'm going to get cynical here. I don't want to. But what happens is everybody thinks, well, just because they become a Christian, that they disconnect from all those ancestral things just because they
It
become
would
a
be
Christian.
nice if it happened.
Yeah,
that
it
way.
would be like, but it's not. So the thing is that they realize is that Christian still has some of the same spiritual problems and physical problems as the other people did before.
Yeah.
And now what has to happen is that Jesus now gives you legal right and authority to enforce the healing and the deliverance and those things and take back the territory that the enemy has. So what we're saying is that in this transhumanism, to put it all back together and do my last little bit and let y'all have it, is this transhumanism is that it is real. It's a mixture between humans and technology.
Yes.
And the technology can be pure technology, but it also the great deception is the setting up of spirits and entity to come in and control those technologies. And while we're here, Steve, I'm just going to point you down the road. So just tell us about the technology that they're doing in Europe as far as even sex bots and things like that, to where that they're using that technology to interface with humans.
Yeah, tainted technology. Let's just call it that, where they're taking these pedophiles and trying to give them a sex bot that will satisfy their needs, so they don't feel like they have to go and perpetrate their crimes against innocent children and against women or men, however their preference is. So they're giving them a sex bot as a therapist. You know, I got an opinion about that, but nobody's going to hear
So
it.
let's take it. Well, let's take it a little further. It is a sex bot, but anything that is any type of an object, well, I don't care what kind of object it is, a spirit can enter into it.
Exactly.
And you have to realize that it is the mind melding. It is the melding, the coming together of the spirit world, interfacing with our world into the objects and our technology and the things that we create to satisfy, maybe even some type of demonic
Is it like
urge.
urge, you know, like
communication
pedophiles.
between two friends?
Because the pedophilia is a demonic inspired
Yes,
act anyway.
that's
Yes.
right.
So now when you're able to, it doesn't care whether it's with a person or whether it's with a bot, but it is that spirit is going to be satisfied in that.
It's
So
like the
tainted-
kids that play the games, and you know, they'll play a game where there's a lot of death, and all of a sudden they go out and they'll recreate that death and murder somebody, and then they'll
Right.
say, "Well, I did that in the game." I could see the same thing happen with these sex bots, that a pedophile or something would be using one, and then turn from that and go out to the real person.
Yeah, and the mind never make the transfer.
Right, not
Because
make
it
the
becomes a
transfer.
tainted technology. Somebody say, well, there's nothing wrong with technology until the demonic realm starts to use it, and then until you believe the lie, oh, that's just a computer doing that.
Yeah.
And then you've believed, and your knowledge has been outwitted by a demonic spirit. They've got you building things and doing things that they can operate through, so that what they want to create can be created without the will of man being in the way. And that's the important thing, that the will of man has a built-in self-will that God gave us, and we can say no, we can say go back, we can even cast it out. Whereas that inanimate object now, it's just wide open.
Well, look at society today, to young people today. Anything that is not computerized, if it's not digital, if it's not touch activated,
Yeah.
it's unnatural to them. They don't know how we even existed 30 years ago. And so the way the young people that are growing up now that are going to graduate from high school, let's say in 5-7 years, the technology is going to be so much advanced. I read the other day that technically America's probably 50 years in advance of what we actually use and know. That there's stuff that's not even been released because it's so far advanced that if it was let out right now, it would destroy companies that are designing technologies for us in this present day and age. They would just close up those stores because the technology got so advanced that you can't keep up with it. And young people today don't want nothing if it's not computerized or digital or whatsoever.
And agreeing with that, if I make a phone call to you, typically there's at least three gates that are open, because you open your ear gate, your mouth gate when you speak back, and if you're looking at something I showed you on the phone, you open your eye gates. And we know from doing deliverances, when the spirit comes out, they typically come out through the eye, through the nose, or through the mouth.
Yeah.
Or, maybe a different way, but that's just three that if I'm not careful through the technology that I'm holding in my hand, I can open doors and just let them.
So you're
right
in,
into my
you're in a
body.
paradigm shift. That's that book I gave you. You're in a
Haven't started
paradigm
yet.
shift. Paradigm shift is the crossroads of where we are now and where we are going. And so you said there was the negative part of the humanism, and then there can be positives to it, but it's which road we're going to go down.
Yeah, and I think that has so much to do with the will of the person. You can give somebody a new right arm because two men severs their same arm. One man gets his right arm, goes right back to work for Jesus, goes in mission fields and builds churches. The other guy gets his right arm, puts a gun in it, and goes shoot some people. It's the technology can be neutral until you let a spirit begin to operate in it. And then the human will is the only thing that if they could get past, the demonic realm could get past the human will, they could have their will with anything. But we got the built-in system that God gave us. And when we are allowing anything to bypass the system, we're opening the door for full control like the serpent did by Satan.
Right.
And when you give in to that, you'll say and do anything, and you, like you're talking about, Brother Steve, you may not even ever have a memory of it because something else took over. I've been so mad before. I got so mad before, especially when I was a kid. Somebody just had a boy in school slap me one day. He was one of the biggest bullies in the school. And I didn't even know what I did, but when I woke, when I came to myself, he was against the wall, and I done about beat him till a pulp. Because something came up. It was anger, and it came out of me, and I couldn't believe it. I said, "Whoa, what just happened?" I had that happen to me twice. I'm glad I ain't got that anymore. Yeah. Well, every once in a while now, a slap spirit comes on me. See somebody doing something stupid, or saying something, you just get out of here. You can't control
It's
me.
in the hand.
Yeah.
Is that right? You ever had
Slap
that?
bear. My daddy had it.
Well, you got to kind of, with all this electronic stuff, you got to, if I had my arm cut off, would I take an artificial arm that I could work with? Sure.
Sure, I would.
But I have a reboot in the Bible and prayer that I can overcome
that's
that,
it,
anything
exactly.
there. So, as a Christian, I'm not saying we should be anti-technology, although you have to wonder. We were sitting in our front room the other day, and the TV said something, and it's not Alexis, but it's a radio like Alexis said, "Oh, you're making me blush." Phyllis and I said,
blush.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's just do the future. So we know it's here, or we're on the cusp of it. So let's do drones. So we talk about animated technology. So what happens is now you just put it on autopilot and you walk away from it. But even monitor it, there's no human interaction with it. You become so trusted with it. And then what happens is that because it is demonically inhabited now, see what I mean? Demonically. See, anytime you evacuate from it and you release it to its own self, something can enter into it. There's always a vacuum. Always remember there's always a vacuum. So now something enters into that drone, that drone that flies, it's got all those bombs, and now it can control a whole city, or it can monitor a whole city, and it's not God, and it's not technology doing it, it's demonic. And you got to think about the Antichrist coming to where now he inhabits that technology, and he's monitoring a whole city, or he's monitoring all your CCTVs, your closed circuit televisions, all of those type things. Everything is now that we've created has become demonized, and it all goes back to that one, because you got to realize humans can't report back that fast.
Correct.
That's right.
It takes something supernatural to be able to do that, and I think that's where we're going with this. And just say when we get out of here and we get out of here and we get ready to go home, my phone right when I get in my car, it'll say 22 minutes to the house, and traffic is light. It already knows where I'm going because it has seen the pattern of where I'm at. And on Friday when I come here to do project, it's really supernatural. You got 32 minutes to go from here to there, and traffic is heavy. Yeah, I mean, and because it knows on Fridays this is where I go. Or here's what it doesn't take. It doesn't say I'm coming here. It comes over here to Joe's place because it knows right across the street
is
where the restaurant is. Getting there, so the technology holding your hand is already telling you that. So you almost have to look at it. How does it know that? You know what I mean? Now we know that there's the electronic portion of it, but then there's a point where it crosses over. And listen here, there's no way it could know that.
That's right.
And
I think somewhere along the line, we have to understand as a Christian. Now let's talk to Christians. There's a lot of the things that we're using that demonic spirits can also be using. So we need to pray over our stuff.
That's right.
Anything that we are questionable about. I mean, I trust my Bible. That printed word right there. I see Brother Steve's got his. I don't have to pray about the Bible. The demon's not going to get in there and make it change words. I'm not worried about that. But other electronic things, hey, in the name of Jesus, if it's not acting right. When I was talking to a guy in Africa today on my phone, I was having trouble with the internet. And I'm asking a question, he's trying to answer it, and then boom, the internet's gone.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm praying? I said, in the name of Jesus, Lord, I want to talk to this man. I command that whatever's troubling to go away.
Yeah.
And I just kept praying over it. But so we need to have a conversation.
So let's do this here. I mean, we've had deliverance sessions in places, and we get ready to leave out of that place, say at 9 o'clock at night. Once we had a deliverance thing in the area, and going out the door, the alarm don't work right no more. I mean, this is really weird. Been here this long and never seen electronic problems like this. You know what I mean? Or,
that's the way it is.
It's just demonic, and then you have to. But the thing is, recognizing it
exactly,
and then addressing it instead of being some. I gotta restrain yourself, Pastor. Okay, I won't say it. Instead of being ignorant to what's going on around us spiritually, but once you wake up and you recognize these things, that it's a spirit being that can interact with the electronics, and then now the machines, and now get into a person, be part of a person, and start activating and doing things like that. We have to be aware of it. So say, well, you mean you wouldn't never do anything? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you wouldn't use technology or wouldn't have some miracle ear, miracle eye, miracle nose, miracle toe. What I mean, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying what I'm saying.
But can it revolt against you is a possibility, They got cars now that will keep you in your lane. What if it decided to take you out of your lane?
Or instead of stopping, which a lot of them have the automatic stop now, what if it's stopping, it goes?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Hello.
To where hey, listen.
You know what they're going to say? They're going to say, that was equipment malfunction. Maybe not.
Exactly. Exactly right.
And now they're coming out with no steering wheels or anything.
No, that's not happening. That is not happening.
That's what they said was happening next year.
No, we're not happening. There will be a break.
Yeah.
If there is no pedal, if there is no steering, there's going to be a brake.
There got to be 4 tires, a steering wheel, and a brake. If I'm going to
there's going to have to
Amen.
be a brake.
I'm with Brother Steve. That's it, brother. I've got your back on that one. If I can't control it, I'm not getting on it. Even a horse, I can usually control to some degree.
Yeah. This isn't the Jetsons yet.
Yeah.
Well.
I was thinking about if we were going to do the technology of what they told us when we were kids, to be able to go out in your yard and fly off, and go to work and everything. The closest thing I can say we're even closer to doing that is a balloon. Yeah. Because we got no closer, brother.
It's amazing the things that are going on in our generation has never been seen before. Surely inventions and intelligence and knowledge has abounded. I think Daniel said that it would be in the last days. Surely that prophecy is true, and it's far beyond our wildest dreams. But it's not just happening for the benefit of humanity. We're opening doors like CERN and other big doors. There's entities that can, and other than us, Derek Prince says the spirit is nothing but a person without a body.
Correct.
It's got a will. It's got eyes. It's got ears. It's got everything a body. It's got everything you've got, but a body to operate.
And
in.
it wants to be in a body.
And it wants to be in a body, and it wants to control, just like your body wants to control that board and your spoon to feed you. Same will. And when it finds a way in anything or anybody, they'll be there. And when especially you invite them in.
So let's
play the Ouija board. See what happens.
So what is this here? We got
About 3 minutes or so.
yeah, about 3
Couple
minutes. So I got a phone call this week from a man that opiates, and he said went down to the delusional trail of I'm Jesus. He is, not me. And I was questioning him about a lot of things, and he said, "Oh yeah, the fallen angel, Aziel."
Yeah.
And say, oh yeah.
He told me this is who I am.
Okay.
He told him, and I says, "Where'd you?" He said, "He just told me his name." I says, "What else?" We talked about. He talked about CERN. I said, "Have you heard anything?" He said, "No." He said, "They tell me about CERN and about what they're trying to do, open the portal through the technology for the demons to come through." I said, "Get on downtown." I said, "How did you know this?" He didn't. All demonic spirits told him. That's how messed up he is. But everything that we've been talking about and have talked about, he knew about, because there's an element of truth in it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm getting at?
So did he call you for deliverance?
Yeah, call for help.
Yeah. Have you took you through deliverance yet?
We'll get back with you on that.
All right. Fantastic.
But that's wild. I mean, it was a while. I got it recorded.
And that that goes back to saying that there's something that can come in you that'll give you knowledge you did not have, understanding you didn't have, strength you didn't have, wisdom you didn't have. Well, what is it? It's a spirit. It is a person without a body that you allowed in.
Yeah.
And if you allowed in that and you're working on a computer, what's to say it don't go in a computer? What's to, where are the limitations? We don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's interesting.
Welcome to my world.
It's been a good show.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this, and it's
We got to go.
It's revelating.
We got to land. We're over.
I'm gonna say goodbye. I'll go switch us over.
All right. God bless.
All right. Tune in. Shotgun, you got anything
Hey,
else?
see you next week. We love it. Love you. Tune in.
All right. God bless.
And thank you for listening to Project SEER.
Thank you for tuning in today. We've been your hosts, Henry Schaefer and Steve Hall. The end times are here. Anything is possible. Are you ready? Don't miss the next episode of Special Edition End Time Revelation.